Hello, friends and beautiful people. How are you? Happy Monday. It's Catherine. I'm gonna see if I'm live in the right place. But here we are. I'm gonna tag a few people. So there's something I want to talk about today. Let's see. Do I want to share it to a group? Yes, I do. I'm going to share it in a few places. Boom, boom, boom. My visionaries group. And I'm going to share it in my spiritual mentorship. Hello, price goes up tonight. Last opportunity for this price on this program. My spiritual mentorship, the Tao of the Divine Disruptor. Let's see, I'm going to share it into that group too. Because this is something that anytime I have 3 or more people in my world, hey Catherine, talking about the same theme, I know that it's time to have a deeper discussion around it. And so that's what I wanted to do here. So yesterday I posted something about the gap. So this is for those of you who are really finding that the familiar things that bolster your identity or make you or allow you to feel like this is me, this is who I am, whether it's the people in your life or certain situations or experiences that you think define you, you only think they define you, they're starting to fall away and it's starting to feel maybe a little bit lonely. Okay, starting to feel some dissonance between maybe some things that were super familiar themes or events or experiences or situations for you, but you're starting to feel this either emotional or cognitive dissonance from it, and this kind of disconnection and breakdown, unraveling, deconstruction of it. No matter what it is, we have different ways of describing it, but anywhere there's just feels like there's this distance now between things that would have marked who I think I am or who I thought I have been before versus I can't put a finger on anything that's happening right now, and I don't really have a way to create a framework within which to navigate and go forward in a direction that feels like it's wholesome to me. Okay, so in a lot of different ways and in kind of a lot of crossover complementary themes, this has been coming up, whether it's my private clients or my group mentorship clients. In a workshop that I just taught with my friend Becky, I saw this in there too. This kind of growing disconnect and feeling like we're in this place now that we can't define because we've never been here before. So it seems very unfamiliar. But also the things that I've marked as those energies, those people that allowed me to create an identity of self or define myself in any way, shape, or form. If that's falling away now, then who am I? Okay. So for those of you who didn't see the post that I created yesterday, it's called Navigating the Gap. And so if you want me to tag you on that, I will. And I'm also going to tag a few people right now. Let's see. And for some reason, I can't do that. So if you're in one of my groups, I'll tag you. For some reason, on my personal page, I can't tag certain people. For whatever nonsensical Facebook reason there might be for that. Okay, there's somebody that I can tag. I'm trying to remember who else had asked me. But if I'm not tagging you here, just know that live, know that I will in the replay. So the gap. Let's talk about the gap first. When we are walking through a new threshold in life, whether it has been by our conscious design, Catherine, whether it is by our conscious design that we are, creating something new for ourselves, we are embarking on a new endeavor in some way. Here, I just tagged you on that, Catherine. You're going to walk through a threshold, meaning there is a moment of departure between who you've been and where you are desiring to go, or where your heart is leading you, or where life may be taking you in a direction that is unfamiliar to you. There's always a threshold. And we're all in our quest of spiritual awakening. Human awakening would be a more accurate way, in my estimation, of naming it and claiming it. A human awakening is that there is an ask. It's not a test. There is an ask. Are you willing to leave behind and let fall away from you that which defined you before? Because as you walk through this threshold, you're walking into a new frequency of you, a new vibration of you, where these other things no longer have a resonance to support them. So whether you want to think of them as being of a lower vibration, it doesn't match the consciousness shift that you're undergoing to go through this threshold and walk through it completely. Either way, vibrationally, energetically, frequency-wise, there is not the bandwidth of support for these ways of being. And so it is a natural process by design that we shed them. And that means that we can shed people who don't match our resonance. We can shed certain situations, institutions maybe, people who have maybe been, a big part of the church for a really long time. They start to realize that maybe there's some things they've been taught or indoctrinated into that don't really jibe with what they believe anymore. And so you may shed your allegiance to certain institutions or ideas or isms, okay? This is a natural process because there's no need for and no use for taking these things with us on this next version or next incarnation of who we are. And every new version of you requires, every new version of your life, I should say, requires a new version of you. So that means that it's naturally going to fall away. Those people that don't support that. It could be family members, could be friends, it could be lifelong associations. It could be your boss. You no longer jibe with having this person as your boss anymore, or having this job. It could be any number of things. But it's a threshold. And it's this liminal space. The liminal space is this kind of free floating place, and there's a high level of support here. We don't think there is, but there's a high level of support here. And I call it the gap. And I did a big explanation on that yesterday, so I'm not going to go too into it again, but it is this liminal space that we are being invited, not tested, to walk through. And it is in this kind of free floating, nebulous kind of, it feels like a very wide open space, because it is. It's pure potential. Where we only feel like we're unsupported, but that's just the ego saying, oh, where's the net? If I jump, where's the net? Okay. So any feelings like that are really the ego is pushing them through. It's not ever coming from the higher expression of who you are. It's never coming from the source expression of you, the God self, the master aspect, okay? You're highly supported in this space, but you're being asked to choose. Are you willing to leave behind all the things that naturally fall away, because of this process of walking through this next threshold of your life, okay? And so the gap is a place where, because certain things fall away and certain people can fall away, and many of you are experiencing this, absolutely, if we let the ego energy try to push us through this experience, like we're painfully getting rid of a kidney stone, instead of seeing it as, well, maybe I'm being gifted this loneliness so that I have the time to reframe everything that's going on with me without distraction. You won't need to people please anyone in this space, okay? You won't need to mollycoddle anyone. Maybe you'll have to mollycoddle yourself a little bit, but you won't have to mollycoddle anyone or make them feel like, oh, poor you, you're looking at me and not liking it, and you're uncomfortable with my journey of exploration, my journey of human awakening. What can I do to help you so you feel better about me? We don't have any of that in the gap, okay, which is really good. So those distractions that keep us from this next leg of our hero's journey into spiritual awakening, a lot of distractions are limited in this space, and it is because we are meant to really work on ourselves in this space. We are meant to develop our intuitive acuity, meaning our intuitive acumen, our ability to be able to really suss out what's going on just beneath the surface of things, and not from a rational, analytical level, but rather from a place where we feel into it in the heart. This is meant to kind of fine-tune our skills in this space. And while it might feel that you're being persecuted by loneliness, what's really going on is the universe is eliminating all distractions so that you can take the full time that is needed to cultivate your skills for this next leg of the journey. It can feel like loneliness. And in fact, I think of loneliness as an ascension symptom. And ascension symptoms can be any number of things that can contribute to you feeling mental, emotional, physical, or spiritual crisis when you are going through a human awakening. These affect the nervous system primarily. This is the next thing that we're working on in my spiritual mentorship, by the way. We're talking about and alleviating ascension symptoms and giving you tools to how to do that, for you to know how to do that for yourself. So this is really, this space, the gap, it's a gift. It's a gift. Because anything that's creating distractions in your life, not everything, but a lot of things simply fall away. They get removed, okay? And it is so that you can do the deeper work. Now, whether you want to call it the shadow, or working on, something that's presenting in the collective unconscious that you might be working on a personal level, all of these things, if you're willing to, and you can understand that this is what is happening in this process of being in the gap, you're being invited to take a deeper, more probing look, life review at where you've been and what got you up to here now. And what can come along next on the journey, what aligns with or resonates next with where you're going versus what no longer does. And so in this gift, and yes, it is a gift, we are presented with an opportunity to be brutally honest with ourselves because there's no longer any distractions. The universe has lovingly fleeced you of those coping mechanisms, those distractions that would maybe keep you before or be a reason excuse that was keeping you from doing the deeper work or looking at those things a little more probingly and being a little more explorative in your shadow work. So now you get to look at that stuff. And the more that you're willing to embrace this process of the shedding, of the falling away, and even if it feels like I've done this a million times before, it's not the same because you are not the same. You are shedding deeper layers. So for some of you who feel like there's a familiar theme that keeps coming up and you you keep beating a dead horse with maybe one theme in your life that's the thorn in your side, I want to invite you to think about, well, it's not the same stuff over and over again. It's deeper layers of that theme, okay? And on the other side of it, those of you who have maybe collapsed certain timelines around certain ways of being, it can also be an echo. Meaning, have you gone back and acted like this person before who would have responded to a familiar theme in the same old ways? You can recreate timelines. So you might want to look at where you're doing that too. Because even when we've closed out and collapsed timelines, we can still recreate them because we have free will here and we can do that. So you can go back to self-diminishing, self-betraying, self-abandoning behaviors, feelings, ways of acting, etc., and reopen old timelines. So you have to ask yourself, is this a deeper layer of a theme that I've been trying to clear for a while? And yet another opportunity for me to go deeper? Or am I recreating a timeline that I already did close out, but I'm exploring this echo and I decided to reopen this timeline again? And if you need any help with that, I'm the timeline lady. I'm the time bender who teaches a 12-module program about timelines and all things time and how humans create time and how we collapse and recreate timelines. So if you have questions about that, you can ask. And I have a mini course on collapsing timelines too. So we'll go in and out of the gap. The gap isn't a one-time deal. It's not like thinking of the gap as a midlife crisis. Rather, that every time you are inviting in, exploring a new version of your life, translation, you are exploring a new version of you. So there are certain things that need to fall away in order to accommodate that. And there are certain things that you need to bring up or highlight or illuminate within you in order to resonate with this new version of you. Either way, it's a give and take. Because if you think of yourself as a full container of ideas, attitudes, and opinions about life, and they've defined who you are thus far, be honest with yourself. Can you really take certain beliefs with you, certain behaviors with you in this next evolved version of you, if those things couldn't get you to where you were by them being in place already? You would have already been there. You would have already become that version of you that you're desiring or is more preferable to you, if those things could still be allowed to be in place, right? You'd be there already. You'd already have the thing be the thing, be doing the thing, correct? So we have to get honest with ourselves about that. So we create a new period of the gap or liminal space each time we go through a different threshold of our lives. We embrace a new way of being, a new skill set, a new job, venture into motherhood, go through a period of menopause and decide to completely uproot our lives, get a divorce. Any life change can do this, but it doesn't have to be some traumatic and chaotic event that can trigger a gap period or another liminal space or threshold to walk through. It can be purely intentional. And you can create it from a sense of your own will, okay? But that space is all, no matter how you get to that space, the same themes are being brought up to be looked at. You get a better opportunity and a clearer shot of knowing who you really are, because that's what the gap really exposes. It allows you to really see who you are behind, beyond, underneath the veil and all the layers of false self that you had to build up that are now giving way in order for this next best version of you to develop. And I want to say, this has always been you. You know, anytime you think you're moving to a version of you that's so much better, so much more evolved, like there's a paradox there, because you are creating it because you create your own reality, but what you're really creating is now a clearer pathway and a clearer vision and more of a focus on who you really are, rather than who you needed to be to survive, who you built up and designed yourself to be based on the knowledge and information you had at the time. We all did the best we could with the information that was available to us at the time. We've made any choices and decisions that got us here. If you're still alive and kicking, congratulations, because you made the best decisions available to you with the amount of information you had at the time, okay? And it doesn't have to mean anything other than that. You can kick yourself about, I should be further along in this process. This is where I should be in my life. I should have been doing this. I should have been doing that. Anywhere you keep saying to yourself, it should have been different, is you not making peace with your past, with you not making peace with previous versions of yourself that was just working with the best available information at the time. So even shedding that and letting that go can allow for a lot more illumination of who you truly are, okay? So you're moving into this next best version of you. That version of you it's always been there. It's always been a potential. It's always been a possibility for you. But now there's more availability because you're saying, well, I want to move up in resonance so I can match this version of me finally. Again, certain things are going to need to fall away in order for you to do that. This can be a lonely period, okay? So why is this so important, and what does that have to do with the hero's journey? So those of you who like mythology, Greek mythology is one of my favorite things in the world. And I grew up just devouring mythology. Roman mythology, Greek mythology, Egyptian mythology, I mean, you name it, I was all over it. And the reason we have myth and fables and lore is because it showcases the hero's journey, which is a deep, deep, deep collective unconscious theme shared by the entire human family. The hero's journey is a primordial template of how we move through this thing called reality and how we can master or command our reality in a certain way where we have, self-possession, not self-involvement, self-possession, where you are really owning your own inner resources. You have a mental resilience. You have a certain emotional intelligence that takes hold. You're able to see the world beyond your limited perspectives of it based on what you think about yourself or have thought about yourself that haven't been so wholesome, okay? Because we all have our own filters of viewing the world, right? We don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. So the hero's journey is kind of this process that allows us to see ourselves, see the world at large, see reality beyond those filters of all those things we had to build up and put in place so we could survive through a painful world that we equate with suffering and struggle, right? And so this hero's journey is a familiar theme. If you've ever read the work of Joseph Campbell, okay, The Hero with a Thousand Faces, one of the greatest books ever. And Carl Jung talked about this as exploring shadow and archetypes. Archetypes are very important because they all contribute to this idea of the hero's journey. We all have different kind of facets or personalities that we'll take on in order to move through the hero's journey, okay? But there are 3 main stages of the hero's journey, okay? There are 12 different stages overall, but there are 3 main parts of the hero's journey. And initially it's the separation, or you could call it the departure, okay? Where you leave the ordinary world, okay? And then the initiation, meaning you're being invited, okay? A lot of people will interpret this as testing, and the way the hero's journey discusses this is being tested with challenges along the way. The universe doesn't test you. The universe only and ever asks you. This is where we're not getting the full story in this kind of theme of the hero's journey. It's not a test. It's an ask. It's like the universe saying, when you hit a wall, the universe says, okay, well, do you want to keep going? Okay? And it has no judgment around whether you decide to bag it or whether you decide to keep going. You're supported either way, by the way. The universe never turns its back on you. Even if you think, well, I'm not doing what the universe asked me to do or tested me to do. The universe doesn't test you. Let go of that. There's no testing in a universe that has no ego. The only way we test things is when we're coming from a place of judgment. And where does judgment come from? Ego. The universe has no ego. God, source, whatever you want to call it. There's no ego there. It's purely compassionate witness energy. And so no matter what you choose in those moments where you're feeling tested, you're supported either way. So let's clear that up right now. You might be getting prompts over and over again by the universe like, are you sure? Are you sure you want to stop here? Because we can keep going. And it'll even go so far as to give you clues and cues as to what it's going to look like on the other side. But depending on the fear that we have of walking in the cave, which is basically the catacombs of our own deep unconscious, to the degree we hold a lot of fear around that, we may not even see these clues and cues that the universe is dropping to us and saying, hey, this is what it looks like on the other side, right? So there's 12 steps, and it's always a return. The hero's journey is about starting off in a place where we have a place of departure, a place of separation, and many of you are finding yourself in this kind of threshold of the gap where this separation is very prominent in your life. You're separating from people. You're separating from certain ideas, even if they're ideas that might have been long-held beliefs that you have about the nature of reality itself. Suddenly it's starting to seem like maybe there's something else going on here that I just wasn't available for before. These are all cues that let you know you're moving into a different vibration. You are moving into a different expression or frequency of yourself. So any lower consciousness levels associated with let's just say a lower vibration of you, for a better term, lack of a better terminology, those are going to fall away. And so it's a separation from the ordinary world, or the world that you've known. This is how you know you're on a hero's journey. This is how you know it has begun. And it's always a full circle. So we come back to the point of origin, except the point of origin in the hero's journey of your spiritual awakening, human awakening process, is you coming back to who you are without all of the layers you had to build up about yourself or on top of yourself just to survive. Does that make sense? Departure, initiation, and return. And I think of the return, especially in terms of a human awakening, as returning to source, returning to the purity of who we are, minus all of the layers and levels we had to build up in order to keep up appearances in this world as maybe a version of us that we never felt wholesome or in an authentic resonance with, but we felt we had to present this version of the world to look like we were capable, or to look like we're a good daughter, or to look like we're an excellent mother, or all of these things. So the eventual return is you coming back to self, but from a place of purity. This is really important. And so leaving the ordinary world is the beginning of the hero's quest, the beginning of the hero's journey. And the ordinary world is saying, looking at the world at large and saying, this is not what it really is. I mean, my whole life I've thought this is what it is. This is all, and there ain't much more. And something opens up, awakens. It could be a trigger event that's traumatic, or it could just be a moment where you wake up one morning and you're like, I really don't believe that thing anymore. I don't think that thing anymore. I don't feel this way about myself anymore. Okay, and it could be because you've been doing deep probing work on yourself. You'll come to a revelation, and it realizes that, or you realize within yourself that this is a point of embarking on an adventure, because you start exploring a different facet of yourself, and by extrapolation, a different version of the world. Okay, because if you change in your perspective of yourself, it is going to affect how you view everything outside of you, because everything outside of you is merely a projection of your perspective that you hold about yourself. Okay, so you could have a moment where you're glimpsing your potential, you're starting to maybe really get good at your visualization practices, and you start seeing something, or you're aware of something that you just couldn't latch on to before. Something makes sense, and it's not even making sense up here. It's more that it clicks in your heart or in a different part of the body connection, that something is changing, something's evolving, something's moving here, and it's pulling me forward. There's like a momentum there that's kind of simultaneously pushing you forward, but also pulling you a little bit. Okay, this is where destiny and fate meet. This is also something that represents as a theme in the gap. Okay, this is where things start to become really symbolic for you. So when you're in this space, you'll notice all kinds of synchronicities, whether they're, number sequences, or you feel like you're getting the same kind of message over and over again. It might even be a recurring song that you hear on the radio, or a commercial jingle that maybe uses an old song from the 70s that was one of your favorites, and it reminds you of a time when you were doing blah, 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 blah. This is the time when the universe is dropping clues and cues and breadcrumbs like bombs, like blanket bombs. Blanket bombing with all kinds of synchronicities, serendipities, and again, to the degree that you're in a place where, well, I'm so lonely, or I'm so alone and afraid, and I'm so unsupported. If you're constantly in that go-to, that default of survival state victim programming, you're not going to see this stuff. So you've got to be willing to open your eyes up to something greater, okay? But these psychological symbols, they're there whether you're available to see them or not, okay? And this is, the more you'll see of these, the more you get this call to adventure. You feel more of this momentum kind of, again, simultaneously pushing you and pulling you to adventure beyond your thoughts about the way things are or the way things have been. This is always going to be your call to adventure, and it could mean anything. It could mean like wanting to finally buy that book that had you interested before, because you feel like, I think there's something in here. I think there's maybe a deeper clue or a deeper, more profound explanation for something that I'm feeling and I can't put a finger on, or whatever that might be, okay? And you're going to have this moment, and this happens for many of us, where it feels so big. Sometimes if you're clued in and these symbols, these breadcrumbs feel so big that you're going to come to another stage, which is refusing the call. So if you're willing to hold on to a certain level of identity that says, well, no one loves me and I'm never supported and life is always this way for me and I always are going to be cues that let you know you're in that victim state of consciousness where you're going to refuse the call for further adventure, okay? It's going to be a really tough place to be. Again, you're going to feel like you're tested. Again, you're not being tested, you're being asked. That, do you really think that this is you? Do you really think you're unsupported? Do you really think you're unlovable? Do you really think that you're untalented? Do you think that, you're doomed to failure at every turn? Do you really think this is all there is? Again, the universe will find very creative ways, if you're open to it, to get your attention and ask you what's going on. And this is the time where we usually seek out a mentor. We seek out someone who has made it very clear, because we jibe with their vibe, that they've already gone through what it is that we're experiencing right now. And maybe they have some answers. They're not there to rescue us, and they're not there to heal you. A good healer worth his or her salt is there to guide you through, but to let you arrive at your own answers. They're not there to, parrot certain answers like, this is the way it's done. And if you have a mentor like that, you need to run screaming. A good mentor is someone who is allowing you to move into a place of clarity so that you can arrive at your own answers. Because I will tell you a little secret. Anytime that you are facing a huge problem in your life, a challenge, the second a problem arises, the answer is there. It's just in a different vibration. It's like two sides of a coin, okay? It's just in a different spectrum of vibration, if you want to call it that. The problem is one side of the coin, and the solution is the other side of the coin, because one can't exist without the other. We have a universal law that is immutable, meaning it is unchangeable. And we have a law of polarity. To the degree that one state exists, the equal and opposite state must exist. This is throughout the universe, okay? There are certain dimensional realities who have more of an expression of polarity. Different expressions of polarity can be experienced in different dimensional planes. But here on 3D Earth, we have pretty strong dualized and polarized experiences of reality. So when any one experience can present itself and exist, that means the equal and opposite experience is also available. Hi, Christine. So, good example, if you're feeling extreme poverty at the moment, you also know that somewhere someone is experiencing extreme wealth. And just as that person can be an expression or can hold the resonance of extreme wealth or extreme poverty, you can hold both dualities too, because that's the nature of existence here in 3D Earth, okay? But if you're so mired in the impoverishment, okay, because impoverishment speaks to a level of consciousness rather than, the material expression of it, which would be like having nothing, which is a lie, because even if you feel like you're the most impoverished person on the earth, you don't have nothing, okay? That's just your perspective. I'm poor. I'm doomed to be poor. So the more you make yourself the victim in that experience, the more unlikely you are to see that there is a different bandwidth or spectrum of frequency available, that you can step into that too, okay? So this is why we usually decide not to answer the call, because we're so mired in our victim mentality and our impoverishment consciousness that we feel this isn't available to us. This isn't a potential that we can latch on to or express, which is always false. But it is the reason why we refuse the call. We refuse the adventure. And so we rob ourselves of this potential of returning back home to ourselves in purity. Okay. And the mentor that would get us there and guide us, kind of show us the steps that we can use to walk ourselves back to who we are in our purity, we miss out on that opportunity. Or if we answer the call, then we cross the threshold. When we're in the space of the gap, it's like we have one foot in who we used to be, but no longer really are. And we have one foot in the potential that's available, the thing we're striving for, the thing we are, desiring and hoping that it holds a higher, better expression of our best good, if you want to call it that way. Say it like that. And so this place of the gap is one foot in one place and one foot in the other. But in our presence, we're in this kind of free floating place where we're not that yet who we're asking to become, but we're also not who we used to be. This can be a place of extreme liberation, because if you can feel into the freedom of that instead of the danger or feeling the terror or the panic of that, what you can really feel into is the unlimited potential. It's wide open and it's very exciting. And so when you cross this threshold, you have an opportunity to see things in a new light. So you're entering into a different, higher vibration of you on this hero's journey into your human awakening. And so you're not quite the frequency you were before. So in this level of clarity, because every time we move up or step through stages of ascended consciousness, we work with more clarity. Okay? You see things as they are. You stop seeing them as you are, or who you have been, or who you needed to be. Does that make sense? So in this level of clarity, you get to see who your enemies are, meaning whatever soul has come forward to, help you in this hero's journey so they can play the villain and you can play the good guy, okay? Because this is the little game that we play in the hero's journey. Or you meet up with your allies and you're able to see then in this new frequency that has a lot of clarity now, you're able to attract with a lot more ease those who are meant to align with you, who resonate with this energy of who you are becoming, because they're also on the same journey. So it is a little bit, it feels like a waiting game, a little bit. Those of you who are feeling really lonely, those of you who are feeling separated from the pack, right? It can be hard to wrap your mind around this while it's happening, but no feeling is final. We do not exist in stasis. Nothing in the universe exists in stasis. No energy is wasted. Everything has a purpose and everything has an expression, so much so that we have no way of completely comprehending all of that. So all that we have left to us and available to us in that moment is trust. Deep trust, deep listening, and surrender. And like I said, in the gap, the universe will remove all of those other things that are distractions to you, really anchoring into that, so it can help you out. So you can have even deeper and more profound clarity. Seeing who works with you, seeing who resonates with you and who doesn't, and why, oftentimes. Seeing who is a natural ally, how they work with you, and why. All of those things become very clear. And this will build confidence within you. So before you get to that space, it's going to feel like a little bit of a waiting game. So the whole reason I'm talking about this is because I want to invite you to really start looking at your life in these in this primordial template, this theme and template of the hero's journey, because it's ancient and it is an undercurrent and a foundational part of the collective unconscious, meaning it touches every single human in the human family. It is a familiar theme for all of us, okay? And whether we are actively and consciously participating in this hero's journey or not is an entirely different conversation. But now that you know this, does it feel like it can give you the confidence or kind of bolster your courage and bravery a little bit to consciously participate in this hero's journey? And maybe you are noticing a theme that's presenting itself in your life where you're being invited to take this next step, to go a little further, to be more courageous, to maybe step into that deep, dark cave. You know, I think as Joseph Campbell once said, that when we fear walking into the cave, it's like we fear the exact thing that's going to get us on the other side of this threshold. It's like saying that the structure of this transformation, and it could be, the cave is symbolic. It's a primordial theme of walking in the cave. It's, you know, we saw it in the Star Wars movie. Back if you're my age and you saw the original Star Wars, and I think it wasn't Return of the Jedi, or maybe it was Return of the Jedi, when Luke Skywalker is being invited by Yoda to walk in the cave, and it's a very dark cave, okay? Plato talked about it, Joseph Campbell talked about it, Carl Jung talked about it, that this is what holds the tools for our transformation. And it is our fear of the unknown, fear of shadow, fear of darkness, fear of looking at things that we don't really want to acknowledge or see about ourselves. That's what we fear walking into. But the second we do it, and we do it with a level of bravery, like the hero returning or following through on the quest, then we're willing to walk into that cave and then see the tools laid out. They're available to us, because in our shadow, there are great tools for transformation, just like the law of polarity in the way I explained it. There is no darkness without light. So if we walk willingly into the cave, we walk willingly into the darkness, we willingly accept the mantle of being the hero in our own journey, all the tools, all the resources are available on the other side of that darkness. They're there. But it does call forth deep trust, deep listening, and I mean listening to that part of self that's not, you know, the rational, analytical part, where you're intellectualizing the hero's journey, because that's never going to work. But I'm talking about the part of you where your body, your own body is speaking to you, screaming like, yes, do this. Or like, no, not that person, not that situation. Your body is always telling you. Your body is always giving you information. So when you're in this stage, and if you are in this stage right now, this is a time for trust. This is a time for deep listening. This is a time for surrender. If you know that you are always supported, does it make it easier to choose those things? Does it make it easier to align with those ways of being? I know it does for me. And I've never been proven wrong. When I've been in some of the scariest moments of transformation in my life, when I've decided, you know what, I'm going to do this because it's taking me in the direction where I want to go. I've seen it. I know I know I'm capable of it. I know I'm capable of holding the energetic of it and keeping it without rejecting it. I know that, you know, I can see all the things that happen as a result of me doing this thing and stepping forward into this. And I trust, I deeply trust, and I surrender, and I put myself in the universe's hands. I know that even if I can't see the net, if I jump right now, I'm going to be supported. Because I know it's taking me in the direction I want to be going. And everything that I choose to do going forward, not only do I have it aligned with the direction I want to be going, but I see it as a level of deeper service. I see it as a level of deeper service to myself, deeper service to the community that I serve. And so then I always know I'm going to be supported if I make what I call the God choice in that situation. What's highest and best for me, highest and best for all, meaning it involves some level of service. And it's the least amount of resistance for all involved, meaning I choose to surrender. If I choose to surrender, that means I'm not in resistance. If I choose to trust, I'm not in resistance. This is a superpower we all have available to us, but it is a choice. And bringing this all back around, the hero's journey is a choice. Just because this is a primordial template and an undercurrent that lies at the very foundation of the unconscious of the entire human family, you can still choose to participate in it consciously or not. Now, is that to say that it may be happening for you unconsciously? Yeah, but you're going to see it as like a review over and over again, like hitting the reset button on all these fuck my life moments. Like, oh, this again, Mercury retrograde again. You're going to find innumerable opportunities to play the victim if you're choosing to unconsciously be part of this hero's journey. I choose to be conscious in this. So does this help? Does this make sense? And if what I'm saying sounds like a bunch of horseshit or whatever, look it up. Look up the hero's journey and start reading about it. Look at the wheel of the hero's journey. You can Google that, and you'll look at perhaps some themes that are going on in your life right now, and maybe that'll cue you into, and maybe I need to look at this hero's journey thing a little bit deeper, because our human awakening process, meaning moving into a higher light body status, moving into higher consciousness hubs of awareness. This is our destiny as humans. We are meant to ascend. We are meant to evolve. Is there a final destination? No, because we are ever evolving, infinite, eternal beings, okay? Without limits, without boundaries. So we're constantly working these stages of ascending consciousness, okay? That is our hero's journey in the ultimate cosmic galactic sense of it, okay? Beyond how that might present itself here on planet Earth, it could present itself as, you know, you making more money, or you moving beyond a certain traumatic way of looking at yourself as a wounded being, right? It doesn't matter how it presents itself in material form. In a cosmic sense, we are all on a hero's journey of human awakening. And we can either be conscious participants in it or unconscious participants in it. I know which one I would rather choose. And for those of you who feel like you don't have a tribe to resonate with, like this period of losing all these people, I would argue that you're not really losing them. If you are divesting yourself of energies that can no longer support you and where you're going, are you really losing anything? Even if that presents as certain people or situations, I choose to take the higher perspective and see, well, this wasn't meant to support me. And even though those people might be falling away, can we make peace with the fact that maybe this was our time that we had together? Maybe that was magic or a gift enough that we gave each other something in this space, and the energy has spent itself or run itself out, and that was it. That was the time that we had. So what can I glean from it? What can I take from it that feels wholesome? What did it gift me with in terms of a lesson, or allow me to know something better about myself? Even the people that we think have been devastating to us still have taught us something. And anyone who's dealt with a narcissist knows exactly what I'm talking about, or any kind of abusive type at all. Any of us who have ever been gaslit or made to feel like we were going crazy or anything like that, even people who have been cruel to us in one way or another, they've still taught us something about who we are. Even if it's in teaching you where your strength lies. Even if it illuminated something in you, a pattern that allowed you to create an allegiance with this person or situation in the first place, right? So this is a period, it's a cycle. Everything is a cycle. And we may go through many cycles of the hero's journey over and over again in our lives, but it is a theme for all of us. And again, you can choose to be a conscious participant in it or an unconscious participant in it. Meaning you can be like, la, 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 not happening. You can do that. And the universe has no judgment of you. It will support you either way. But if something is rolled up into your destiny, you're going to keep getting those drops, those breadcrumbs, those cues and clues from the universe saying, well, it's come around again. You've gone through this consciousness loop cycle and you've explored this. You want to take it further? Do you want to go here? The universe will never give up on you, is my point. Okay? And that irritation you feel with certain things coming up again and again and over and over and over again, where do you keep responding or reacting in the exact same way so that it doesn't allow you to move into this next stage of awareness? You're welcome, Michelle. Christine says, requires strength and trust. Absolutely. And deep, deep listening. And we can only do that from a place of presence, right? If we're here in the now. Yeah. Not siphoning off our energy to, it should have been different back then, or I only want to see myself as this person now. Can you appreciate and love that you are in a place, a special place of transformation right now? You are. You can choose to embrace that and answer the hero's call and move forward. knowing that you'll find your tribe, meaning you're going to also find, when you agree to the hero's call and agree to going further, you will be in a higher resonance, a resonance with which you will attract those other people who are at the same stage of this journey. You will find your people. Again, there's that trust and surrender piece all over again, over and over and over until we finally get it. One of the reasons why I created my spiritual mentorship, the Tao of the Divine Disruptor, and the price on this goes up tonight. So last opportunity, last day to get this program and this mentorship at this price. But I created it because I know that there are so many of us who are losing our identity of who we were before, and the situations that created familiar themes or helped us create an identity of self or helped us create our personal reality. Those people, situations, they have to fall away. They have to, because they cannot be held in the vibration of where you're going. There isn't anything to support them there. You're only becoming more and more wholesome, and you're never not whole. But at these stages of awareness, increase your ability to feel wholesome. So that's ever evolving. That never exists in stasis. There's always a next better available vibration of that. If you allow it, if you invite it, if you're willing to walk that hero's path. Okay? But I guarantee you that the support that you need will be there. Those people will show up who are in that resonance that match where you're going. They will. They absolutely will. So, oh, wonderful. You're in Sedona and feeling the pull so strongly. Awesome. Awesome. How wonderful. So the reason I created this mentorship is to have this tribe of people who are also going through similar things, who are also walking this journey and want the bolstering of support with people who are like-minded and in a like vibration to help us be supported and feel like we have a tribe, that we feel like we have people we can resonate with, people we can create alongside with, people that can make us feel like, I'm not doing this alone. I invite you to, please don't think you're alone. You're never alone. You are never alone. But this is a tribe of committed women that are going through the same thing that you are right now. And we're here to support each other and to build our tools out and help climbing through these stations of awareness, these ever-evolving, higher and better ways of being and available frequencies that are here for us to explore. This container takes us through the rest of 2022 together. If this jives with you, I invite you in. What's really awesome about joining this is that at the end of this month, I'm going to be doing a 5-day program called Unplug. So this is a 5-day back-to-back program where we're exploring the 5 biggest and most potent energies that keep us plugging back into the old earth matrix and recreating old themes that are based off of fear-based frequencies. And these are pretty profound things that we keep playing with and as we're on this hero's journey. Worry, regret, shame, guilt, and lack. Those are the big 5. They keep us plugging into the old earth matrix, which is trying to die out, but it can't if we keep funding it with energies like this. Are there other low frequency vibrations that keep this old earth grid alive? Absolutely, but these are the 5 biggest ones. So we're going to spend 5 days talking about these as not just emotional states, but rather codes. Codes that program an old matrix that is ready to die out and collapse. And how we start pulling back from investing in these codes, these emotional states in our own life, and what that looks like in very everyday practical terms, and doing some energy healing around that and some energy upgrading around that. So this is going to be a really amazing class. And when you join my Tao of the Divine Disruptor mentorship, you get the Unplug 5-day program for free. So you can join for as little as $267. That price goes up tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific time. If you've heard me talking about this, you're going to have opportunities to keep joining this mentorship. But as we increase the amount of value in this container, the investment will increase along with it. So why wait? Get in now. This is an incredible value at $1,500 or 6 payments of $267, but it will be $19.97 as of tonight after 6 p.m. Pacific time, and it will continue to go up in July as well. So get in here now. Come and join us. I hope this talk has brought you revelations and ignited your imagination and helped you to see maybe some things that were feeling a little stuck in your life. I really hope that this brought some wisdom and some light to what you're dealing with right now. And I want to wish you all lots of love and peace. You're never alone. Bye-bye.